has over 30 companies. The American Chamber back home is pretty pissed. You know, he skipped all the Fortune 500 companies and he visited this one. And as Rose and Vicky were saying, it's Kevin Costner all over again. If you build it, he will come. And so that's where we are. This whole evening has been about the world that it's going to different places. For those who have access to knowledge, to technology and all that, man, hear me. Problem is most of the world's over here. They're left behind. And this is the thing that we have to figure out. Because this side is getting bigger and bigger, that side is getting richer and richer. Two very different issues. So, all of us have had these choices thrown to us. Do you make a lot of money? Do you clean the environment? Do you help people? You know, they always say that's the triple bottom line. People, planet, profit. Well, you know what? The ladies, myself, and you know, I've bought into this story. We think you can do all three. We think it's possible. And the reason why this is important, you know, particularly here, the seat of capitalism, Wall Street, is that unless you make a lot of money, you don't matter. So what we're trying to do, particularly with this last social enterprise, this is our stick it to you moment. That we think we can build $1 billion social enterprise where you help a ton of people and you clean the environment at the same time. And we did it, or we're doing it, by putting these three pieces together. These three pieces don't usually go together. The green mobility, having zero-emission electric vehicles, technology, and last but not least, people, social enterprise. And you start that by looking at the problem. So the very nature of what we're trying to do at GET, and what everybody else in social enterprise is trying to do, is find a problem. Find a problem and then to try to fix it. Most people are in the business of selling products or in the business of solving problems. And once you take that different stab at it, the solution changes very much. So in the Philippines, it's not hard to find a problem. It's not hard to find a big problem. And when we went to the Department of Transportation, talking about transportation, traffic pollution, Secretary Abaya said, well, you know what, Freddie? That's the thing. If you guys want to fix something, it's the Jeep. 85% of Metro Manila's pollution is vehicular, and 40% of Metro Manila travels via the Jeep. Sino sa inyo dito sumakay na ng Jeep? Anybody here ride the Jeep? You guys love it? You love riding the Jeep? Would you ride the Jeep now? Daily, every day, going to work in that thing? I don't think so. And so when we looked at those guys who were riding the Jeep every day, the guys who were sniffing the fumes, riding 3 or 4 hours a day, owning it, they don't really make that much. That's what we found out. It was always in the shop. And the driver, he's driving 16 hours a day, hardly making ends meet. So, huge problem. We said, hey, if we get to fix this, and this is a pretty big problem, there's a lot of people we're going to affect positively. So we said, okay, number one, the solution has to be inclusive. When you talk about transportation, particularly in first world countries, they'll talk about light rail, heavy rail, subways, and this and that. Billions of dollars just to execute. Can't do that in Manila. You know, we'll rip the roads, wait for 3 years, somebody's going to get a ton of kickbacks. And what happens to them? Again, we go back to that. What happens to them? So we said, you know what? There's actually a solution for this. And as luck would have it, we met this company out in Portland, Oregon, so actually Vancouver, Washington, and they were doing medium-speed electrics. And you've probably seen those cars. They were built by a company called GEM, Global Electric Motor Cars. And the guy with the beard who was talking earlier, Ken Montler, used to run this company. They built more of these vehicles than anyone in the world. There were 40,000 on-road electrics. And they go 25, 35 miles per hour. Not for the freeway, But for dense urban centers with traffic, that's the perfect solution. But you know what? We said, don't build vehicles for the individual consumers. Don't build it for them. Build it for mass transport. Because that's where you're going to make a dent. That's where you're going to create the largest impact. And then throw in social enterprise so that we don't build this for us to run our own transport network. It's still for those people who own the vehicles today, who own the Jeeps today. This thing costs us $25,000 without a battery, $35,000 with. Jeepney owners can't afford that. But if you finance it, and this is where they can get it for 500,000 pesos if nobody's willing to support them, or if local government or yourselves are willing to come in, not as a freebie, but as a partner to help them, we can bring down their acquisition cost to 50,000 pesos. So can you imagine that? These guys buying or paying a down payment of 50,000 and us rolling this out, and we get our money, you'll see this later, because we're managing the whole fleet. So this is not the system now where you just sell vehicles and they're just running willy-nilly. We've changed that with this. So it's a prepaid card. Same thing you see in any developed country. So hindi na yung bayaran sa jeepney. It's not the cash system with the jeep. It's a managed system now. So we control deployment, we control dispatch. We have a command center that does that. And so you know where each and every vehicle is, you know how many people are on the vehicles. Actually, the scary thing is we will know who is riding on each vehicle. So you change the way you're dispatching transportation so that they're not all there on the road at the same time. And this is what you see in Manila, those jeeps cutting you, chasing passengers, because that's how they earn money, on a per passenger basis, every man for himself. So you change that by controlling it via the system, so that if you have 20 passengers and I have 10, at the end of the day, we all earn the same, because we're getting it from the pool. So everyone from that route earns the same amount. So that's the first change we've done on transport. It's fixed stops. So this is not like the Jeep we are all used to, that stops anywhere, picks up anywhere. No, it's fixed stops. So you now have a controlled and managed system, which you've never had before, at least not in Manila. And as you'll see later, most of the world doesn't have that. Now, on top of that, because we have the tap-in, tap-out system, we have that video display on board, I have actually put a media platform on top of the transport business. With all those analytics, you can tell McDonald's or Jollibee or whoever's advertising Coke. Yesterday at 2:30 p.m., 88,222 people saw your ad. 45% were women, 12% were students. Companies kill for those kinds of analytics. We can change the ad. If there are more women on board, then the female version of the ad comes out. So these are the things we're doing, so you are creating more value for the business that you are creating for those who have less in life. And we work with Gawad Kalinga for the training and values education. So this will be the first time you will have people driving public transport in Manila in uniform, you know, with some culture, with some class, with some respect, taking care of their passengers. Wouldn't that be nice to see that finally in Manila? And 1% of all fare revenues. So this is something we're taking off gross collection. So this is not CSR where you stick a budget and say, okay, we'll put this out to them. 1% of all fare collections goes to social enterprise projects, like what Pinky and Rose have been talking about, Gawad Kalinga communities and stuff like that. So we've changed the model of public transport. in the Philippines, the soonest, or the sooner you can get away from riding a jeep, the better your life will be. So as soon as you start making a little money, you stop riding the jeep already. And that's what we want to change. This is something that both rich and poor will ride. And anytime you can equalize society with a product like this, it's great for everyone. Just to give you an idea, I've had so many of these presentations, people are saying, nah, it's too good to be true, it can't be real. So, typical daily fare collections, it's about 4,000 pesos. So I'm sticking with that 4,000 pesos per day. We think we can do more. That's about 120,000 pesos a month, $2,700. On top of that, we're saying, well, this is on the low side. We're starting to sign our media contracts. It's double, triple this amount. But for argument's sake, let's put 120,000 pesos on fare revenues, 120,000 on media revenues. Gives you an idea, the green areas, that's what the owner of the Jeep or the Comet earns. So that's about $800 per month, the owner. He doesn't have to concern himself with fuel costs, we take care of that. Maintenance, we take care of that. Wala na. Tulog na lang siya. So it's like we're the property manager. Driver earns a lot more too. Over 800 if you include salary plus benefits. So for the first time, he gets healthcare, he gets insurance. So it's something he's never had before. And he's working 8 hours instead of 16. So we do 2 shifts for the Comet, not 1. Oh, and then by the way, that's our transport revenue, that's our media revenue. So of the $5,000 plus dollars, Get earns $2,000 per Comet. Not bad. Not bad for social enterprise. Scale that to 1,000 vehicles. Scale that to 10,000 vehicles. And you have a whole different world for social enterprise. So we're saying that, we're rolling out next month. So July 25, we have an event, but we're starting to roll out even earlier than that. And by August, you're going to see the first 30. By the end of the year, the first 500. And within that time frame, a year from now, we should have about 3,000 vehicles on the road. Within 5 years, 25,000. Replacing the 50+ thousand Jeeps in Metro Manila alone. Just Metro Manila. Cebu, we're doing Cebu. Baguio, right now the dirtiest city, keeps calling us. Clark. So there's a lot of potential. And just Manila alone, you're talking about in 5 years, a $1.5 billion business. Just Manila alone. So this is what we've been talking about. People don't really care about the good you're doing unless you're building a profitable company. We all clap if it's Mother Teresa, but none of us really want to do that work. But if we can show people that you actually make a ton of money while you're doing good, that's not too bad. Then our guys just signed a contract with Macau International Airport. The airport there is run by a company called Menzies. And they're using the Comet for on-tarmac activities. Menzies is in 150 airports around the world. I don't know if they're in JFK, but they are in LAX, they are in Heathrow. So other uses for the Comet are starting to come out. And you go around the world, it's funny because you go around the world, every city uses a vehicle like the GP. We'll be in Sri Lanka in November. We were with Edward James almost the other day, and he wanted to bring it down to South America. So just the potential alone for what we're trying to do is exciting for us. That's why we call it global electric transportation, not Philippine electric transportation. And if you look at all those pieces I talked about, they're there. We have the electric vehicle, we're crowdfunding the ownership, we got a fleet management system. electronic payment platform, data analytics, and media. All these businesses you hear about coming from Silicon Valley. Well, we stuck them together. The difference, though, is we said we needed to become both disruptive and responsible. Usually, people do one or the other. Very rarely do both. And the key leave behinds, we've said, if you want to build a business like this, just those three things. Make sure it's a sustainable product. Use the technology to make it an intelligent solution. And don't forget the people. Make sure the business is inclusive and integrated. Our goal for us was never just to build a better vehicle. It has always been to build a better world. And that's the difference between this, the definition of a social enterprise, and what most people look at when they look at the business. We'll be around, if there's interest to partner, to see how you can be part of these things, whether it's in education, fashion, transportation, we can discuss that. And again, we'd love to have you part of these things. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Rose, any final words?